What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Rock is George podcast, episode 15. The Rock is George podcast can be found at anchor.fm/rockisgeorge. From there, you can select your favorite podcasting platform to listen to the podcast, whether it's Spotify, Google, Apple, Overcast, whatever your preferred platform is, you can hear the podcast. I have another great interview for you today. Like I said in the past, all my interviews are great. I discovered this band in the pages of Classic Rock magazine. It's a magazine that's published out of the UK, which makes sense because the band I interviewed today is out of the UK. Their name is Wayward Sons. I had the chance to speak with vocalist and mastermind of the band, Toby Jepson, and the guitar player, Sam Wood. Wayward Sons was formed in 2017, where they released Ghosts of Yet to Come. The formation of the band was by Toby Jepson. He had originally been in bands before. He was the frontman for Little Angels, which was a successful band out of the UK. He did some live shows with Pete Way's Fast Way. He did some work with Dio's Disciples, another UK band named Gun. He kind of got frustrated with the whole business. He did some solo work for a little while before he was approached by the head of Frontiers Music, trying to talk him back into kind of the band dynamic, but only this time he would have kind of the control over it and be the head songwriter, whereas in the past he was sort of like, I guess I'd say a frontman for hire. I don't know for sure, but he certainly has more control under the Wayward Sons banner. Something that really caught my eye about Wayward Sons is kind of how their album artwork kind of really pops at you, kind of like old 50s horror comic books. The music is kind of straight up classic rock, but they really do have their kind of sound. I can't describe it. Toby describes it a little better in our interview. They released their second album in 2019, The Truth Ain't What It Used to Be. And they wrote a bunch of songs for that album. They had some leftovers that they kind of worked into their latest album. 2021 sees the release of Even Up the Score, the third studio album by Wayward Sons. It comes out on October 8th. It's available in multiple formats, vinyl, CD, streaming. It's a great album. I've listened to it. I liked it a lot. I like The Truth Ain't What It Used to Be, but Even Up the Score kind of takes it up that one more notch. So here's my interview with Wayward Sons, vocalist Toby Jepson, and guitarist Sam Wood. I ask the same question of every band or act that I talk to. If I knew absolutely nothing about Wayward Sons, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I think full-blooded rock and roll.
Yeah.
A big heart, interested in talking about real subjects rather than just the facile nature of the supposed rock and roll idiom, if you like. And it's I think we're pretty eclectic. I think that's one thing I love about working with these guys is that the music is, we're not concerned with trying to sort of bracket it in one particular way. We've all got lots of different sort of influences, and we all like all kinds of different things, but we all have a love of quality and storytelling, and I think sort of a wide expanse of wide palette.
Would you agree with that, Sam, or is there something you want to add?
I certainly would. I think that's pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think it's something that you can certainly hear our influences, and the fact that we all do have feet sort of very much in the music that we love. But trying to sort of bring something together and do it in a way that I don't feel sounds pastiche, but it sounds like hopefully we're sort of doing something slightly fresher with it.
Absolutely. I listen to your music and I can't really put my finger on a description, so it was great that you guys could. I'm like, it's rock. It's sort of classic rock, but it doesn't really sound like classic rock. It just sounds like catchy melodies, stuff you could sing along to. And you're right about the message. You certainly have message in your music.
The greatest bands to me in the world that have ever existed, and a lot of my favourite bands are bands that stand alone in their own field. You can't really put your finger on what they are. Like, say, Queen are a good example of that for me. They were just a great band. Anyone could like Queen, Probably the same with, I mean, another good example, probably Mott the Hoople's another good example for me, you know. David Bowie, you know, you can call it what you want, but the reality is it's just great songwriting made by, you know, made by great musicians. And it shouldn't, for me, the bracketing of music's always been a real irritant. I think it's, you know, because I love everything from punk rock, British punk rock, right through to the American new wave. You know, I love a lot of alternate modern rock music. I like the classics as well. I think that they're all part of the same family, and it kind of, I don't really want to be able to have. I love it when people can't sum us up and don't know what it is, because that just means I've somehow got it right.
Absolutely. You guys are releasing your new album, Even Up the Score, on October 8th on Frontiers Music. Your last album, The Truth Ain't What It Used to Be, was sort of a concept-based album, according to you guys. Is Even Up the Score following the same path, or is it a little different?
I think it feels like a sort of natural continuation. I think. Would you agree with that, Tobe? I think it's not a follow-up album to it. I think it's sort of, it's different from the first two. I mean, the first two albums were very different from each other, and I think this again is different from those two.
It's a classic progression, I would say. You know, it's like, I mean, it's a bit of an obvious cliche, but I do think each record has progressed, and that's a lot to do with us getting used to each other and learning each other's sort of world and doing a lot of touring and understanding ourselves and starting. Because I think when you're in a band, what happens is, you know, it starts off as a sort of small kernel of an idea, a bright little idea. And as it sort of spreads out and starts to become something bigger, you yourself have to understand that. And that takes a little while for you to sort of really get your hands around it all. And it's nuanced and it's complex and it's all, you know, informed by the work that you do and the people that you meet and everything that goes on around it. And so that's what happens. And I do think the whole classic thing about bands often make their, I don't know, not maybe the definable album on their third record, but by the time, if you get the chance of making a third record, what tends to happen is you've kind of gone through all the questioning, all the sort of searching, and you've found a level playing field. And I do think that's what's kind of happened with this record. I think we've all gone, now we know what it is. Okay, we've done these things over here, but this is the kind of more focused version of it. And I definitely think that's what's about this record, is that's exactly what it is, you know.
Are you the type of songwriter that leaves songs open for interpretation, or would you like to talk a little bit about the singles that you have released thus far?
Hey man, it means what you want it to mean. No, no, it's no. I mean, I've always worn my heart on my sleeve with this stuff, and I think as a songwriter, I'm very, very interested in the narrative. I come from that world, that sort of, the Paul McCartney, the John Lennon world, if you like, for want of a better description, that kind of wanting to talk about something. I always thought that you have to have a point, have something to say. And I think, as much as I have those, that's the way I look at it. I try not to finger point. I mean, I'm pretty strong. I'm very strong on the socio-political commentary. I very much think it's part of the need of an artist. I think it's a responsibility almost of an artist to talk about the things that are going on around you and how you view the world. That's the way I look at it. It might not be the same for everyone, but that's certainly the way I look at it. But I don't like to finger point. I just like to raise the questions, and I want people to have those conversations, because we're in a very difficult time in history at the moment, I think. Lots of strange things going on, as we know. And I think art has always been a great way of being able to talk about these things. And I really hope that within the kind of the bracket of rock and roll with guitar music, that our little part of it is as relevant as anybody else's. So it just, but you can take out what you want. I mean, I sort of think about something like, I don't know, Bloody Typical is a good example. It's quite irreverent, it has an irreverent nature to it, but I'm making a serious point. There is a serious point there, but if you don't want to know what that serious point is, it's okay too.
Does it get that deep for you, Sam, or you're just like, I do the riffs?
I know what the chords are, just about, and no, I mean, the thing is, I think we're all very much on the same page in terms of our, I suppose you could say, our sort of political standpoint. I think I'm probably right in saying that, and so actually we are all on the same page. But Tobe's such a great lyricist and has such a keen idea of what he wants to get across. But I think he's right. I think it is still open to interpretation, and it can mean, it is a cliche, but it can mean what you want it to mean to you. It's not because he might have had one idea, about, that created the song. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, enjoy it or digest it in the same way that it was written. And that's the beauty of it, really, I think.
Is it difficult with an album of 12, 13, 14 songs? Is it difficult to pick which ones you want to release as singles to kind of promote the album?
Goodness
we
me.
normally have an idea, don't we? We know when we're listening through them all, obviously you don't record a song that you don't like. And so that sort of hopefully goes without saying that all 12 of the songs on there are all songs that we love and care about. But there are always songs that sort of feel more naturally like they're the ones to sort of go out and push as singles or focus tracks or whatever you want to call them. But there's always the discussion surrounding it, though. There's always a few that have to get left out. But you just got to hope that people like what they hear and go and find the album and go and discover the rest of them as well. Which I think people are still doing and are happy to do. Would you agree, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I always remember a brilliant interview I read with Elton John years ago, and the interviewer said, "So Elton, you've made all these records and you've had so many hit records. He said, what's your secret? What's your formula?" And Elton just sort of looked, and he goes, "Well," he says, "I record the album and I release the best song." And I've always thought that was a brilliant way of looking at it, because it's just like you can question and question and question. All you can really do is just like release the song you like the best. And you look at something like Bohemian Rhapsody is a great example. I mean, that EMI were absolutely up in arms about them trying to release that track, but they knew as a band that song represented the heart of that record, and irrespective of how long it was, they knew that it would be a success because people would believe it because of these reasons. And I trust that stuff. I mean, there are the songs on this record that came from the back of the pack, which we didn't expect. I mean, I think Faith in Fools is a good example of that. It was a song that we recorded right at the end of the Truth sessions, actually. Like a lot of the songs on this album were songs that we had backing tracks for already recorded, partially, some riffs, some bits and pieces, because we did intend to record 2 albums back to back when we were making the Truth album. And thank God we did, because when we hit lockdown, at least we had the hard drives with the stuff on it. We could work on it, right? So, but Faith in Fools was one of the last ones we worked on. And I remember it was kind of like, everyone was looking dreary-eyed. We'd been up for hours and hours and hours working through all these ideas, and it was like, we've got enough already. We've got to stop. There's too many ideas. And I remember we just recorded it, and it wasn't until we listened back to it, when I got opened the drives again last year, that I remembered it. I was like, oh my God, this song's fantastic. And it just so happened that Phil had done a brilliant drum track. So very quickly, that song emerged from what really was the shadows into right at the top of the tree and became a really important song. And that was a joy, because it was unforced. It didn't have this kind of there's no priority around this. It was just, wow, we've got this great tune. Let's make the best of it. And so hence it's become, I think, one of the central songs on the album. And that was kind of by accident. Totally.
And you end up agonizing for so long about the songs that you've had in your head that right, I can't wait to do this, and then there's committee meetings and all sorts going on to try and get them nailed down, and then you have songs like that just come in, as you say, from the back of the field, and it just totally fell into place, didn't it? And just didn't have to try too hard, didn't have to think too hard about it. It just worked. And that's a wonderful thing when that happens.
You guys as a group pretty much have the final say on how the album goes together, even though you're being released through Frontiers Music. I know Frontiers doesn't get too involved with anything they didn't put together.
Yeah, no, absolutely we do. We have complete. I made that plain from the very start that it had to be that way. And in fact, it was a reason why I carried on and I signed the deal, because when they were originally talking to me, because when they first called me, they wanted me to reform the Little Angels, which was never going to happen. Then they said, "Oh, why don't you work with a bunch of these guys?" And they sent me there was a load of other people that they wanted me to work with, and I went, "Well, no." if you want me to do anything, it's got to be kind of on my own turf, because I genuinely had thought to myself, I don't think I'll ever make another rock record again. Just before this, because it's compromised so many times. You know what I mean? You when you get involved with labels and you get involved with various people in this business, it can become very compromised, because a lot of people got their fingers in it. And I just thought, I just don't want to go through that again. I've already done that a couple of times and it was difficult. So it was very stipulative. It was like, this has got to be our decisions. We make the decisions. We will program the records. We will sequence these things. We'll do what we want to do, because that's the only way you're going to get the A game out of me and out of the band. So and to be fair to Serafino and the guys down there, they've left us to it, and they've basically gone along with everything, the album sleeves, the videos, everything. They've just accepted it and gone, okay, that's your thing. We're going to respect that.
And since you mentioned it, we'll talk about, we were talking about this before we went live, before we started recording. You kind of have the total package. You don't just have the songs. You don't just have the music. You have artwork. You have different configurations of the music. You can have CDs. You can have LPs. You got different colored LPs in the US. You got LPs in the UK. You got two different kinds in the UK. You have videos that had a lot of work put into them as far as animation and stuff like that. When you came back to starting Wayward Sons, is that how you wanted to set the band apart?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. The intention was to, create that kind of record and the kind of campaign, if you like, and the kind of world, a universe, if you like, that anyone that becomes a fan of the band can immerse themselves in, because that's how I loved it when I was a kid. I would go and buy that, new Black Sabbath album, or I'd be queuing up in the rain to buy. I remember I did absolutely queue up in the rain to get the Holy Diver album by, for Dio, and then the album sleeve and pouring over it and getting the inner bag out and checking the lyrics out and all that sort of stuff. It means something. And even though it might be quite old school, and it's maybe not the way that the modern music business really operates on a general basis, to me that doesn't matter. I think you've got to do what you've got to do, and you've got to create something that has some real foundation to it and gives people enough reason to want to stay around. And that's what I hope. I hope people, when they listen to Wayward Sons and they buy the albums, they immerse themselves in the idea of it. And it certainly seems to be that's the way that our hardcore fans are doing it. As we're spreading out, that's the way that people seem to be accepting it. And I'm really, really pleased about that.
Is there anything you wanted to add, Sam?
No. I mean, I just think it's because I mean things are moving back. With the way that music is consumed now and the way that everything's gone digital, it's wonderful that we still value. When I say we, I mean us, the record buying people that we all are, still appreciate the fact that owning an LP and owning actual stuff is important, and it's a very, very important part of the process. And I think with the artwork that we've had on all three albums, I love just sitting and holding it and looking at it and taking the time to take it all in, because there was a period where we'd kind of got away from that, hadn't we? When everything was on CD, you still had it, then everything went to downloads and you didn't have it at all. And now it's come back and it's bigger than ever, and it's back, and I think it's really wonderful that still exists, and there's still that excitement that exists for the areas that don't just include the music. It's the whole aspect of a record and what it means to people, which is wonderful.
Hey guys, Rock is George here, breaking in with the Rock is George podcast whiskey break. Today's whiskey is coming all the way from Scotland. It's a Scotch, of course, because whiskey can be called Scotch only in Scotland because of the rules of making whiskey and yada 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 and the board of whatever, and it's actually quite boring. So basically, if you get an American whiskey, you could be drinking what could be called a Scotch in Scotland. But anyway, let's get out of that. Lagavulin, very great peated whiskey. Their 16 year is like the pinnacle. It's their best whiskey. It used to be their only whiskey. They are kind of branching out with kind of younger age statements. They did like an 8-year. I think they did a bizarre 9-year for something. I have the 11-year aged Lagavulin. It's the Nick Offerman edition. I guess Nick Offerman's a big fan of the brand. He was in Parks and Recreation. I never watched a show, but I know who Nick Offerman is. He's married to Megan Mullally, if you know who that is. The Offerman edition is 11 years aged and then finished for 4 months in a Guinness Stout barrel here at the American Brewery for Guinness. It's considered a single malt, peated. I can actually smell the peat while it's sitting in my glass to my left here. Lagavulin describes the aromas as barbecue smoke, fresh seagrass, roasting citrus, and baked apricots. They say the taste is campfire, salted caramels, Dutch apple pie, dark chocolate, and cigars. You know, you love those tastes. Like I said, you know, some of these descriptions are just not what you're really going to taste, but it gives you an idea. All right, so I'm going to give it a taste. I've already poured it in the glass. So there is a great deal of smoke, and there always has been in Lagavulin. Anything they have, they pride themselves on their peat. It's not overpowering. It's certainly not the most peated thing I've ever had. It does have a nice smoky flavor. You can taste some sweetness from the caramel notes, and I don't know about apple pie or cigars. I guess with the smokiness, I can see where they're describing cigars. It's a really good scotch. If you like peated, it's great. If you've never had peated, I think you can handle this one, and it won't turn you off too much. It goes for about $75 to $80. It's well worth the price. It was a limited edition, but I'm sure there's still some out there. If you can't find the 11-year, you won't go wrong paying a little extra money for the 16-year. Lagavulin is great. So let's get back to Toby Jepson and Sam Wood of Wayward Sons. Now, your artist for the album covers is Stuart Dilley. Does he also work on the videos as well?
No, he doesn't work on the video. Stuart's just a pure illustrator. And, you know, I've worked very closely with him since the very first record to kind of realize this concept. You know, and he's whenever I've talked to him about it, and I've, you know, like this time, for instance, I mean, I just sort of said to him, all I said to him was 1950s, you know, American B movies. And he went, leave it with me. And he came back with that, you know, the Attack of the 50-Foot Deadwood, you know, which was brilliant. And you know, and it sums up the whole thing. And it's a brilliant third version of this concept. But no, we have a guy that we've worked with a lot called Jay Hillier, who's a music video director. And he worked on the zombie epic that we did for the first album, the clown epic that we did for the second record. And he shot the live action stuff on this new set of videos, but because we were all in lockdown over here, we couldn't get together. So I just sort of thought, you know, we've got to do something, and animation was clearly the obvious thing. But of course, animation is very expensive, you know, it really is. So I went on a sort of animation site and found this young kid who absolutely, by pure and utter coincidence, and I really mean this, literally lives 15 minutes down the road from me. I mean, I was looking at a guy from California, a guy from South Africa, somebody in Germany, and a guy in England. I didn't know where he lived, and I chose the guy in England because I loved his stuff better than anybody else's. And it turns out he lived in Frome, which is like 15 minutes down the road from me. I couldn't believe it. So whether that's fate or something, I don't know. But he's a young kid, just got out of university, desperate to work on stuff, fantastic animator, left him to it, and he turned out this fantastic stuff. And you know, we were able to sort of bring it together with the live action stuff. And I think it's worked out quite well. I mean, I think if we'd had a little bit more time and weren't locked down, we would have expanded it slightly more. But we did what we could with the time we had, you know.
Wayward Sons is finally back out playing live shows. What was it like to play that first show after being off the road for about a year and a half?
Terrifying. Wasn't it? It was so strange. It was such a good. So far, you know, we've got the tour coming up in November, but so far it's all been festivals, and so which is a lovely way of coming back to things, because you know everyone's there and no one can believe their luck that you know they're able to do it. The bands can't believe their luck that they're able to play. The people that are there can't believe their luck that they're able to be in a field and watch bands again. But it felt it felt so strange. Something that 18 months previous just felt so second nature and like in complete muscle memory. And within sort of 2 songs, it all comes flooding back, and you go, oh yeah, this is it. But you really don't realize how much you've missed it until you get that first taste of it again. It was really quite. It was quite an emotional thing, really, wasn't it? It was.
No, it was.
Because it's been very, very hard. It's been hard for everyone, and for musicians and for people seeing the gigs. Music is a huge part of our lives, and performing and getting up and do it is what we do. And to have not been able to do it for so long, and then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, give it a go again. Wonderful.
Same for you, Toby?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think we took the very smart decision to play 5 completely unheard of new songs, which might not have been the best decision, but actually I think it was a genius stroke, because people actually it was brilliant, because we played Bloody Typical, we played Fake, we played Faith in Fools, and a couple and the 2 singles we had out at the time. But it was 5, we were only playing 50 minutes or something, and we played 5 brand new songs no one had heard pretty much. But they went down great, and actually in a crazy way, that was the thing that gave me the jolt, really. I thought, we're not just relying upon the stuff that people know. We're going to go in there guns blazing and say, this is about the future, this is about moving forward, and we want you to understand that, and we want you to enjoy this. And the songs went down great, and I think I don't know what you thought, Sam, but felt like a real shot in the arm. Actually, it felt like a complete catapult,
it did
into the future.
It really, really did. And to kind of feel that, because everyone there, it was a great position to be in, because, as I say, people, the people that were there watching at any of the festivals that we've done are just so happy to be there, and are so happy to be seeing new music. You're so happy to be there because you can't believe that you're able to be out playing music, and then to be able to try out these new things and give people something new, and for it to go down well, it just really felt like you're able to go and hit the ground running again, really, and to sort of get enthused about the tour coming up and about the album, and just to sort of know that it's all going to be okay, kind of thing. That makes sense,
Yeah.
Has Wayward Sons ever played in the U.S., or do you have aspirations to play in the U.S., or is it just too expensive to do that?
No, we absolutely would love to. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. I think, I've played in the US quite a lot in my career, and I've spent a lot of time in America sort of working, recording records and so this, that, and the other. So I know America reasonably well, and I know how enthusiastic the audiences are. I mean, last time I was over playing, I was in Dio's Disciples with Tim, Tim from, and the guys from the original Ronnie's last band, and we did a whole load of sort of House of Blues and this, that, and the other, and it's just a great. I mean, it feels very similar to the UK, but there's obvious slight differences. But I would absolutely love to do it. It does come down to kind of whether the records do any good, and also how the promoters regard it. I mean, we're fortunate to have one of the world's greatest agents in Steve Strange being our agent, and Steve's got offices in California now, so it may well be slightly easier for us to pick up stuff in America. But of course, it's all governed by the want and desire for someone to bring us over, because it is expensive. But it never say never. And I do think our music is a kind of universal thing. I think I've always been in love with American music as much as I've been with English music. So it's kind of it's sort of tailor made, So I would really hope there would be that opportunity,
Outside of Wayward Sons, Toby, you do some solo work through your website and stuff like that, and you do producing and movie work. Is there anything that you're currently working on the side?
Well, I mean, I was fortunate to sort of, I'm fortunate to have got a history, so a pretty successful British music history sort of thing as part of my, part of what I did before, and so through the lockdown I was doing a lot of online acoustic stuff, and I'm developing that through a Patreon site, and people can join that if they want to and stuff. So that's very important to me. But Wayward Sons is my focus for the creation of music. But I've got lots of other things I'm interested in. I am getting involved in the filmmaking, in filmmaking, creative filmmaking, and so at the moment I'm working on my first project with that. We're about to shoot some footage for some investors and things, and I'm in my third or fourth screenplay at the moment. So, I don't like to sit around doing nothing. I like to fill the time every moment with something creative. But music's the focus, but filmmaking is becoming a focus as well. So it's for me, it's all art. It's all about expressing yourself and finding a way of talking about the world. So yeah, watch this space, I guess.
How about you, Sam? You have any outside ventures?
I've actually got my own sort of classic car business over here, which is the thing which, when I'm not sort of doing music stuff, that's my focus, which is, I feel very, very fortunate to have, the two big things in my life that I do are just things that I love doing. It's a very, very fortunate position to be in. But, I obviously the band is always the main focus. I think it is for all of us. But it is just doing something that you love and being able to have that freedom that comes with that, and to be doing this and to be in a position that we're playing gigs and people want to come and people want to be a part of it. It's something quite new to me. And yeah, it's just, throughout lockdown, it has been hard sort of not being able to do that. And whilst it's meant that other things, you have been able to get on with other things, this is always the main focus, and it's nice to sort of get back to it.
The new album is Even Up the Score. It comes out on October 8th. It sounds great. You made a fan out of me, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on the Rock is George podcast.
It's great, man. Listen, it's amazing, the very fact. I mean, this is one great thing about technology, and the fact that we can do this and we can hook up and and chat about this. It's awesome. It really is. There's what's not to love about it. I love it when people like our music, and making records is difficult, and it's something you do in isolation. You get 4 or 5 people all crammed in a room, sort of beavering away in a kind of almost like a laboratory, and you don't put your heads up until you finished it. But you have no idea what people are going to think about it. So all you've really got is, it's a bit like setting your orphan child in a boat and pushing them out into the sea. Like, see you later then. Hopefully people are going to find it and like it. It's a joy when people do. And it's a joy when people are interested enough to want to talk to us about it.
I think that the interviews do make a difference, because I think when you find out, a little more about the artist, and you find out where they were coming from or what they were thinking and stuff like that, I think that can make someone's ears hear an album completely different.
No, I couldn't agree more.
That's all the questions I have for you today. Once again, I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
I want to thank Toby Jepson and Sam Wood once again for coming on the Rock is George podcast. You can check out Wayward Sons at waywardsonsband.com. You can buy their music through their website. They have some special vinyls there. You can buy it at the Frontiers Music European shop. You can buy it at the Frontiers Music US shop. Everybody's got a different color vinyl if you're a vinyl collector. The CDs are all pretty much the same, but they got some nice little fan-friendly packages. I also want to thank Dustin Hardman of Hardman Promotions and Frontiers Music for making this interview possible. Hey, you've been great. I've been George Dion. I'll see you again next time.